Welcome and hello. Have you ever had to do this sharpen pencils on sandpaper like this? Oh my gosh, don't do this anymore. This just makes a horrible mess. I'm going to show you what I used to use when I was a retoucher. I used to do retouching by hand directly onto negatives. And so we had to keep our hands nice and clean. I'm going to take a sheet of sanding paper here. This is 11 inches by 9 inches, regular sheets that you get. And they come in different sizes or grits. The larger the grit number, the finer the sandpaper is. It's more appropriate for softer leads or charcoal leads. If you go to the smaller numbers, like 80, those are very coarse and more appropriate for very hard leads. This one happens to be 180, so it's a little bit fine for this, but if I'm going to use a charcoal pencil, it'd be probably pretty good. Probably the best thing to do is get one of those packets that comes with different sizes in there. And what you do first of all is we just fold this thing in half. This is how we're going to make something that will be a sanding pouch that will make it so that you can sharpen your pencils and not make a mess. I have to kind of take my fingernail and pull on that a little bit. And what I'm going to do is take a straight edge and put it on the side of it. And if you hold this down, you can usually tear these pretty easily. So now I've got a sheet of paper exactly in half. And then I'm going to put this in half again. And then what I'm going to do is fold this end over just a little bit and staple it. You could use tape if you don't have a stapler, but stapling's about the best. And fold the other side over. And what we've got now is a nice little pouch that we can keep all of our charcoal dust inside, or pencil dust. Just kind of pop it open like this and stick this in here. Of course, try to keep it up like this. It's kind of hard with the camera here. But you can also, if you want to have a flat edge, just kind of pinch it open and do this with it. And you still can keep all that stuff in there. Another nice little tip is if you get a lunch bag, and you can put it inside of a lunch bag and seal it off and keep it in there so you don't make a mess. Okay, also once you cut these, you don't have to fold them this direction. In fact, a lot of times I like to fold them this direction. So this one gives you a little bit shorter one, but it may be a little more efficient on your use of sandpaper, because you can, of course, we fold it on the end and staple it. Let's go ahead and kind of depends on how long you want the lead, but you can still, on this one, you can still angle the lead like this if you want to, and still up and down. So you got plenty of room in there going this way. This is probably a little bit more efficient use of it. But either way works great. I'm going to show you how to use this pouch just a little bit more. Got a pencil here that's in here that I've been sharpening for a little bit, not too long. And the pencil, actually the lead starts about here and ends right about there where my thumb is. But what I'm going to do, instead of pinching across the top of it, I'm going to pinch along the side over here, just like this, so that I'm not pinching the actual lead. I'm just next to it. And then when I do that, what happens is I get this tapering that's quite consistent. Also notice that my right hand here, you got to keep spinning this thing. So when I pull this out, what we see is that I got a nice consistent taper on this lead, and can make me some very nice marks stay there. Now you notice that the wood here's got a lot of stuff on it, so you can go back and kind of, you know, carve off that so you got, you know, white wood in there. I don't know that it matters a whole lot. Normally when you get a pencil lead this long, you're going to be holding it way back anyway. So we can do that. Another thing we can do is by putting one in here, and if I just hold the very tip like this and don't move up and down but just spin, what'll happen, now I'm kind of holding on to a little bit of the lead, but what'll happen to us is that we get a more of a blunt point on it. See that kind of coming about there, and if I push it down a little bit further, I can make that taper a little bit more. So there's a lot of different things you can do that you'll learn for making different type leads, or at least different type tapers on the leads. And of course we've always got to where we can open it up on the inside here. You can see that. So I can make a flat point. And whoops. Now there's a problem that you have with these, and that is if you push down, you'll break them. And that's one of the big advantages of using this sanding pouch, is because if you're trying to make a taper point like this, you're not pushing down ever. And so therefore you won't run across that, breaking that lead, because you're not putting any sideward pressure on it. Now on this one I didn't let the sandpaper work and I pushed on there, but it looks like it kind of had a fracture right there anyway. Okay, so hope you take a look at this and find different ways of using this sanding pouch to make different types of tapers on there. But the big advantage here is that you're keeping all your debris inside of here, as long as you hold it upright. Now since I'm filming this, I'm going sideways like this, but I'd hold it more upward to keep the debris on the inside of that. And then the other big advantage is that I can make a nice sharp point like this without having the danger of breaking it. Of course I did break this one, but that's because we were pushing from the side. And anytime you put pressure from the side, that's how you end up breaking the leads. Same with the cutting this open when we were trimming off the wood. As we come down along the lead, we're not pushing down, we're just pushing out on that. So those make big differences to keep from breaking the leads. All right, thank you very much for listening to this. Now there's a lot of information on the internet on how to sharpen these pencils. I'll give you a little tip here, and this one's already been sharpened with mechanical. But if you take your ruler, and you want to have an inch long deal lead, mark it there, but then go back at least another ½ inch, and right there is where you would want to start your cutting. Now I always like to use these. You can get these pretty cheap. If you go to Harbor Freight, sometimes you can get these for free. But the trick on this is to kind of start at the same spot. I'm just going to get it here so I can be sure and see where I am. And you don't want to take off too much at a time. But the thing I found out, you need to hold it with this hand, or you're basically gripping it with these fingers back here. And then this hand holds this blade, and all it does is it doesn't do any pushing with this hand. This hand just controls the angle. So where you get the pushing is with this. And what you'll notice is that, I don't know if you can get this from the side view, but as I come down, when I come down to that ½ inch point, as I go down there, I just kind of pull out so that I lay it flat. So now when I come down and get to that point, I'm going to go flat on there. Kind of dug in a little bit too deep on that one. If you do dig down too deep, like there, just back it out, come over the top, and then carve into that. But if you keep your blade flat as you go across there. You're not pushing down the lead. And on these soft pencils, you'll find that you won't break the lead then if you're not pushing on them. So here, the blade, I don't know if you can see it if I turn it this way, but I'm just kind of flat, parallel with that with the lead in there, and just kind of take it down little bits at a time. But as long as you're not pushing down that lead, unless it's already broken inside, you're not going to break it. But the trick is to keep parallel with it, and then we just keep doing that until we get down to all lead. I usually do this a little bit more even than this as I go around, but and then once you get down to this, you can actually use that sandpaper pouch to kind of knock off the rest of it. But as I was saying, you can get different size grits, and the larger that number is, the finer the grit is, and the finer the grit is, the softer the pencil lead you want to use. So you can keep several of these around. Okay, well, thanks for watching the video, and I hope that will help you out and at least keep your hands clean, because you can see now I've got pretty much, well, a little bit there, but pretty much clean hands, and that's what would happen when you're doing retouching. You had to keep your hands clean so you didn't destroy the negatives.